So now I'm going to switch to English as well to introduce our next session, which will be led by Carnegie Mellon University. CMU is a new and very important partner for the IDB, and we are truly delighted to have them with us today. This session, which is AI applications and pitfalls, will explore how to strategically apply AI with your business while avoiding common mistakes that make companies when adopting these technologies. CMU will share best practices and key recommendations to help you implement AI effectively, responsibly, and aligned with your business needs. In this session, we will have Nikhil Malik, which is a visiting professor at the Tepper School of Business in Carnegie Mellon University. Thank you so much for being here, Nikhil. The floor is all yours.
Thanks a lot, Isabella. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. And I know that we have, just bring it up right now. I know we have 15 minutes at the end for Q&A, but I'm more than happy if there are clarifying questions along the way. I'm more than happy if you want to highlight them. I'm happy to answer those as we go along.
Perfect.
All right. I hope you can see my shared slides.
We can see the slides, but we can see it like in that like monitor.
Just give me 1 second. Does it look fine now?
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to speak on this topic, and such a great opportunity to connect with so many participants who are joining this program. So I'm Nikhil. I'm an assistant professor here at Carnegie Mellon University. I am in the marketing and business technologies area in the business school here. And so what I'm going to talk about today, I think Isabella gave a little bit of context on AI applications and pitfalls. I think if I compare it to maybe the previous session on Meta, where they build new AI products, a lot of what we do here at the university is to analyze AI products that are launched by big tech platforms and often critique them and also look at whether they help or they sometimes create some issues in the markets for consumers. So that's the sort of flavor that I'm going to give today. So I hope that this is something besides being a talk on the AI front. I'm hopeful this gives a sense of some underlying AI research as well. So I hope that's useful. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to start a very big picture, and most of my focus is going to be on consumer-facing AI tools. So very big picture, I'll try to lay out some of the big consumer-facing AI tools that a lot of us are familiar with these days. And then I'm going to narrow it down. First, I'm going to narrow down to one specific sort of category of AI tools, which is AI tools that help with price estimation. So that's going to be the focus of the talk today. In particular, with price estimation, I'm going to narrow down further to look at one case study in real estate. And I will share an example of a major company that offers AI-based price estimation in real estate. There are many companies that do that across the globe, but I'm going to take one example of that as a case study. How that will help us is I'm going to be able to talk about 3 different pieces of research that we have been working on in the last few years. And I'll be able to share with you what we have found in this research studies by looking at this AI application. And that will help us come up with takeaways on what are the pitfalls of developing some of these AI applications across the board. So my goal is going to start big, but narrow down to very specific examples of AI applications, identify what can go wrong using these research studies, and hopefully use that to kind of generalize, more generally when we use AI, we deploy AI, both from the point of view, if we are a consumer of AI, we should be aware of some of the challenges, some of the issues that may arise, but also if as a business I am developing and deploying AI for my consumers to use, we should also be careful how it might impact the customer relationship if I don't design the AI platform well enough. So with that, let me start very big picture. So when we think of uh, AI tools right now, I think sort of the most prominent tool out there in the last 5 or 10 years is probably Google, and provides Google search ranking. So you go to Google, you search for something, you get a list of results as an outcome. And you see the same thing across a number of platforms. You go to Amazon, you search for a product, you get a list of products. And all of this search and ranking is backed by AI. So in terms of the search aspect, whenever you write something in the search bar, of course, there's a large language model that is behind the scenes trying to interpret what you're describing in your intent, in your search intent. And then it's going in, looking at thousands, millions of web pages. And again, processing those web pages and figuring out which of those web pages are important or relevant to your search, and then ranking all those relevant results to show you these search results. And by and large, there are a lot of platforms out there that more or less follow the same process, uh, particularly in context of web search, but also in context of e-commerce and a lot of other apps that use the search and ranking, AI-based search and ranking out there. The second sort of big example I think a lot of us would be familiar with is recommendations. And when you think of what you want to watch on a web streaming platform like Netflix, or what music you want to hear on Spotify, or what videos you want to watch on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or any of these social platforms, these are often backed by recommendation systems. So recommendation systems are again one of the, in the last 10, 15 years, one of the biggest applications of AI. And they've been around for a while. In the early days, they were very simple in the sense that you would have recommendation systems. For example, if you look at the Netflix example, the way they would work is every piece of content, whether it's a TV show or a movie, would be tagged, would have some tags to fit with it. Like, is this a comedy show, or is it a adventure show? It's a fictional show, and so on. And then it would figure out what does the user want, what are the tags on each content, and try to match those two things. So that used to be much simpler, but as AI has made it possible to process unstructured data, so not just tag these contents in these sort of very simple ways, but use text, images, videos, and automatically tag them in millions of features, the quality of these recommendation systems have become a lot more sophisticated in recent times. And maybe as a consequence, we see that often on some of these social networking tools, they're able to engage us more and more because they are able to learn and understand our preferences for content, and they're able to kind of process that content and really figure out what is really matching to our preferences. So the recommendation system is sort of second big category that I want to point out. So that's been really prevalent and a big impact on our day-to-day interaction with these tech platforms. The third one that I would point out, I think more perhaps the more recent applications of AI is, of course, chatbots or chat assistants. And I hope that people use ChatGPT or other such chat platforms. But it's not just limited to these major AI platforms. We see these chat assistants being offered by retailers, by e-commerce platforms, a lot of other websites, in fact. If you are going on a website to invest in mutual funds, or you are going on a website to buy shoes, or any sort of web browsing that you're doing, a lot of these websites increasingly offer these chatbots or chat assistants to help out consumers kind of convey what they're looking for, what issues they're running into, and help them out without human touch. So ChatGPT is just one example of it, but across the board, there are a lot of examples of um, online websites that are helping consumers navigate information using these chatbots. In fact, if we look at sort of the major focus for a lot of large companies out there, I think they tend to sort of highlight 2 or 3 main applications of AI in 2025 and going into the next year, 2026. I think chatbots still continue to top that list. I think everyone talks about automation and talks about a lot of other applications that might happen later, but chatbot is sort of still the most prominent application out there that industry is spending a lot on developing. So those are sort of, I would say, search, ranking, recommendations, chat assistants. They are, I think, better known. I think a lot of us have interacted or used these tools, and it's not super complicated to create these tools either. If you are a business and you want a recommendation system on your website, or you want anyone who's visiting your website to have a chat assistant available, it is not very difficult to use one of these already well packaged products from Amazon or Google or Microsoft to set up a chat assistant for yourself. So that is something that I think is more prevalent, and I think there's a lot of information around. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about is price estimate tools. So AI-based price estimate tools, which platforms can provide to their consumers. Now, if you think about it, these applications might seem quite different, but in some sense, all of these algorithms or all of these AI applications sit between buyers and sellers, and they influence choice in some sense. So if you think of search and ranking or even recommendations, search, AI-based search helps to connect consumers with advertisers. Similarly, chat assistant helps to connect, again, a consumer with the company without having to have a lot of human touch in between. Similarly, when we think of price estimate, we'll find something similar. They are very valuable because they sit between buyers and sellers and really make that interaction very efficient. So let's take a look at a few examples of industries or platforms that have implemented AI-based price estimation. So this first example comes from Airbnb. Airbnb is a short-term rental platform. And this is a snapshot from Airbnb's host tool. So this is, if you're booking a room on Airbnb, you see the consumer side of it, but Airbnb also has a website that the host on Airbnb use. And so Airbnb provides this AI-based price estimation, what they call smart pricing, to the host on the platform. So in this example, you can see that if I'm hosting my home on Airbnb, I would first want to kind of chart out on the calendar what days I'm available to host and what price do I want to set. Setting prices is not straightforward. It could depend on many factors. It could depend on seasonality. In some seasons, my city is high in demand for travelers. Some seasons, maybe not so much. It depends on how big my home is, home features. It could depend on the quality or the reviews that I get from my home. So putting all of these factors together and come up with what price I should set for my home is not straightforward. So that's where Airbnb helps. So they have an AI-based price estimation tool that helps host by suggesting what nightly price they should set for their homes. Another example is Mercari, which is an e-commerce marketplace. I think similar to eBay and some other platforms out there. Now, if you think about a lot of the products that are being sold on this platform are used goods. So think about if you're trying to resell your bike, you're trying to buy a used kitchen equipment, any of those things. They're very small items, 10, 20, $50 items. And often it is again very difficult to decide if I'm a seller of a used bike 10 years old, I don't know what price to set. If I set a price that's too low, maybe I'm leaving some money on the table. If I set a price that's too high, no one might buy this for a day, for a week, and I'm just stuck with this thing that I wanted to get off my hands. So this is a problem that is very common in these used goods markets. And Mercari is one platform that offers a suggested listing price. It again uses AI to come up with these prices. And these prices are available as suggestions to sellers, and they can choose to use it or kind of ignore and set their own prices. That's the second example. And in fact, there are many other examples of price estimation tools available out there. So I covered the example of Airbnb and Mercari, but some of the most interesting examples that I find are in the space of art, physical art and digital art. Imagine that for any one of us who is not an expert in art, it's incredibly difficult to figure out what's the right price for a painting. So if I want to buy a painting, if I want to sell a painting, it's very difficult for me to set prices. So in this space, live art and StockX are a couple of examples which provide an AI-based price estimate for these complex, one-of-a-kind products. So this is a common pattern in across all of these examples of AI-based price estimates, that they work really well to help out the consumers in markets where the product is bespoke or one of a kind, where no two products are similar. So think about if you're trying to buy a stock, right? Like an IBM stock or a Meta stock. Now, there are millions of Meta stocks out there. So you don't even have to figure out what I should pay to acquire a stock of a company, because I can look at the stock market, I can see what it's trading on, and that's the price I have to pay to buy the stock. Now, to sell my stock, I see what the exchange price for the stock looks like. That's the price I'm going to sell my stock at. But unlike that stock market example, in some of these markets, when you're doing a short-term rental, when you're selling your used bike, when you're selling art, all of these products are bespoke or one of a kind. So no two products are equal. So by looking at at what price is someone else selling their bike at, or at what price someone else is renting out their house, it's very hard to figure out what price I should rent out my home. And if I make mistakes in setting the price, I could be charging too little where I could have made more money, or I could be charging too much and not be able to sell my product at all. So that's a problem both for the seller and the buyer. As a buyer, I also don't want to pay too much. I also don't want to bid too little and kind of fail to buy altogether. So in all of these markets where there are one-of-a-kind products which are hard to price, these AI-based price estimates are quite important, and we are seeing more and more of these show up across the board in the last few years. So if you look at another couple of examples, then a used car market is also a big example. So initial purchase of car, of course, the manufacturer sets the price. But once you have a used car, again, it becomes difficult at what price should I be buying? Should I be buying a car or should I sell the car? So again, AI could play a role in helping us estimate the price of a used car. And finally, the one area that I'm going to focus on today is residential real estate. And I'll focus on the example of Zillow. This is one of the companies out there that offers AI-based price estimate for real estate homes out there. So before I go into that example, let me spend a few minutes on why price estimation helps. So by looking at all of these examples, we can see that many of these markets involve one-of-a-kind products where no two products are identical. The challenge is that traditional way of appraising a product is either very slow or very expensive, and therefore it is often not available to small firms. So if you think of the housing market, you could get an expert broker, agent, or an expert appraiser to come to your home and survey the home and estimate the value. But that is slow. That is going to take time. It's really dependent on one person's expertise and can be expensive as well. And that's not something that you can repeat many, many times. So if you're selling your used bike, if you're selling a lot of these bespoke items, um, it is not practical to have an expert appraiser kind of estimate the price of the product all the time. The other challenge here is that available data or examples are very noisy or they're very sparse. And so that makes the right price very uncertain, right? So if you look at your home, yes, you can look at sales that are happening around you in the neighborhood. Because someone else's house sold, maybe 2 or 3 houses sold in the last 1 year. But it's very noisy and it's very sparse because, first of all, there are only a handful of sales that happen around you. And even if you go to your appraiser, your agent, or a broker, they would just know about these handful of 5, 10 sales that happen in your neighborhood, in your zip code. But there are very few examples. And often these other homes are not exactly similar to your home. And so there is a lot of sparsity, which makes it difficult to use these comparables to figure out the right price for your product. At least in the housing setting, you're selling it maybe once in 5 or 10 years. So you could do a lot of work to kind of figure out information around you to figure out what price I should set. But in a lot of these smaller product settings, it is not viable to be spending that much time figuring out the estimation of the product price. This is where the AI helps because it is a lot more powerful in summarizing historical data and just large amounts of data, right? So it's not just trying to estimate the value of the house based on 5 or 10 comparables around you, but it's trying to estimate it using all national housing data going back last 15 or 20 years. Just able to kind of process a lot more examples, thousands or tens of thousands of examples. If it is able to do so, and is a valid question if these things are very accurate or not. These AI-based price estimates do end up anchoring expectations, they influence negotiations, and they drive search and marketing decisions in the domains where they are successful. So let me dig into this example of Zillow and Zestimate, and this will help to also talk a bit about what research we have been doing and what issues, challenges, or pitfalls we have found with this application of AI. So if you look at real estate in the US and Europe, these are some of the big players out there. And I think if you look at any country for that matter, there are some of these major real estate platforms. So the one I'm going to look at Zillow, but there are other platforms like Redfin, Opendoor, OfferPad that are also present. And sort of the main problem that they are solving is home buyers and sellers in these markets fundamentally find it very difficult to search for homes. They find it very difficult to price homes. And that's why these platforms exist, to help buyers and sellers connect on these points. This is a snapshot from Zillow. So what it does is for any home, like your own home or you could just look this up for any home, just like you would Google search for any company or any product. You could go to Zillow and you could look at any home. And in this example, there are pictures of the home. It says a 5-bedroom, 3-bath home. And this one I picked out from Pittsburgh, where I am at. And it provides this estimate, $380,000, the product price estimate for this home. It also provides more statistics. It says that the range of Zestimate is from $361,000 to $400,000, and how it's been changing over time in the past, or how it might change over time in the future. So you can see in this example, this is a different home. This is a home in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a very expensive place, so it's a $1.4 million home. And it, besides just the price estimate, it's also giving like how price has been changing in the past, how it's changing in the future. Now remember that this is all AI based, because the home has been off market for last 5 or 10 years, for example, but the AI is kind of approximating what the value of this home is every single day. And so just as a background, so Zillow is a major online real estate marketplace. It features more than 100 million homes that are, you can search and browse and look at the estimate for any of these homes. It is not supposed to be a formal or an official appraisal, but nevertheless, it becomes a very visible starting point whenever buyers and sellers or agents are negotiating. It becomes often the starting point. It becomes a default anchor whenever you discuss the pricing for a home. And so this makes it a very interesting setting to discuss about how do these AI-based price estimates are calculated, and how do they shape the markets, and are there any pitfalls in this application. So let me play a very short clip on, I let the Zillow CEO who was interviewed on explaining how this estimate works. So let me quickly play that clip.
Now, what I was very curious is, how do you figure out what the house is worth? How does your algorithm work?
Well, the short answer is the database the software looks at the property attributes of your home and compares it with like homes. The much longer answer is, at each census tract level, census tract is basically a couple of neighborhood blocks, we have a meta model that sits on top of many other submodels. And so, for example, a submodel might look at tax assessment. Another might look solely at distance to an arterial. Another might look at dollars per square foot. Another might look at just regressions against number of bedrooms, for example. And the meta model at the census tract level tries different weightings of each of the submodels going back 15 years, and is constantly improving itself by changing the allocations, the relative weighting of the different submodels, to figure out what's the right weighting across each submodel to be as accurate as possible. So as time passes, as more and more data comes into the system, it becomes more accurate over time. And point of fact, about a third of homes in the US now have had their property attributes changed on Zillow by homeowners or their agents. So much as Wikipedia is a living database of all the world's knowledge, Zillow has become a living database of all the property parcel information in the US. And that allows this estimate and other data on Zillow to become more accurate over time.
And does it apply only to existing home sales or also new homes?
We also come up with estimates with new homes based on the property records that either come to us from the county or come to us from the listings feeds from from home builders who send us feeds. So also, when we get new information about a home, this estimate will change. So for example, if county records have 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, 3,000 square feet, and then we become aware, either because the listing information says so or because a homeowner tells us that the property has 4 bedrooms and 4 baths, 4,000 square feet, we recalculate this estimate at that point.
So what is your view of the process that?
So if I could just add something on top of this. The way the model works is, if you think about a home or any complicated product for that matter, for a home, you can think about what is the value from living at this in this place. So it depends on structural features of the home, like the roof, the tiles, carpeting, the flooring, and does it have heating or cooling, or all of those structural features. So there's modeling of that. And then you can also imagine the value of a home depends on the neighborhood. So it's highly dependent on what is happening around the house, right? What is the value of this neighborhood? Are there good schools out around? Is there good transportation? Is it walkable? All of those things. And then third, it could also depend on how the economy is doing. How is the housing market changing over time? Is it improving 2% every year? Is it going down? Is it improving 5% every year? there are all of these submodels, like something that's looking at the structural features of the home, which also looks at unstructured data, like the images, videos, text reviews about the home. Then there are another submodel which is looking at the geography of the neighborhood around. There's another submodel that's looking at how's the economy changing over time for the country, for the city. And what Zillow is doing is kind of creating these submodels and then placing weights on them and figuring out how much weight to give the structural features versus the geography versus the future. And that's their secret sauce. That's not something they're going to tell us how they're doing it, because they're doing a good job. They're able to get customer attention. But to be able to replicate something like this in a different business or a different industry, you could sort of follow the same approach and devise a model like that, because that certainly helps Zillow a lot in getting customers' attention. This, I think someone asked for maybe a link. Let me drop that in case the video is sometimes not easily audible. All right. So let me, a related question to this is often, this is a difficult problem to solve. And it is often criticized as well. So let's also hear that for a minute or two.
Now, a question for both of you is that I've heard some criticism, especially from realtors, that it's that the Zestimate or the pricing model that Zillow uses may have some flaws, and because there are some factors that just can't be captured and automated. Do you agree with that criticism? And if so, what's your response?
I do agree with that. I mean, it's computer generated on every home in the country 3 times a week. So no employee of Zillow has ever been in your home. For a computer generated valuation, we believe it's quite accurate, and it's a good starting point. We call it a Zestimate, not as appraisal. It's meant to be a starting point. And if you want to figure out a more accurate determination of your home's value, then we encourage you to talk to a real estate agent or an appraiser who will come to your home and refine the valuation.
Absolutely. If you have something special like a pool for koi fish, let's say, they'll never know. And you'll know it's very important to you. It might be important to some buyer. So that's why it's a basic estimate. And there may be some negatives as well that may not be incorporated.
So you can understand that there's a lot of criticism because such a big and important industry. So that's where I think hopefully we understand how the Zestimate works, and they call this something called a neural Zestimate, the model behind the scenes. And they call it neural estimate because it essentially is able to look at the images, text, and videos of the home to be able to figure out the estimated value of a home. So the key point when Zestimate or any AI-based price estimate is criticized is who is developing the algorithm. So in this case, we heard a bit from the Zillow CEO. But more importantly, why are they offering this AI-based tool for free? Remember, this is a free tool that's available. There's no one's charged for this, but they're offering it for free. So you want to look at what is the incentive of the platform in offering this tool for free to consumers. And if you look at how does Zillow make money, what they do is they provide Zestimate and other such informative features on their website. So as a consumer, as a home buyer, home seller, they get a lot of traffic, consumer traffic on their website. And they make money when someone on the website uses real estate agents that are advertised on the website. So that's how their business model works. So essentially, they're attracting and retaining customer attention. And they use that to generate engagement and leads for real estate agents, mortgage providers, and other business services. And they also have another iBuyer business that they use, where they themselves place bids on homes, buy homes, improve them, and flip them over in the market. So that's how Zillow makes money. And so that becomes important when you think about what are Zillow's incentives, and does it really have the incentives to provide us with the most accurate estimate, or does it have some different incentives that we should be careful about? So with that background, so there are 3 studies that I'm going to mention. I think, let's see how much time I have left. maybe 15, maybe 12 minutes. So I'm going to mention 3 studies that we did to identify so 3 issues that can arise in AI-based price estimates. So one is what we call feedback loops. The second one is this idea of incentives of the platform, that their revenue maximizing or profit maximizing incentive may not be to provide you the most accurate model. And third is the issue of AI trust. Right? So a platform provides you AI-based price estimate, but do buyers and sellers trust the estimate? And are there situations where people can lose trust in these AI estimates? Let me go over these quickly. I wouldn't go deep into the economic modeling that we do behind the scenes and a lot of data and the empirics, but I'll try to give sort of main takeaway ideas of the 3 studies. The first study looks at this idea that whenever a machine learning or an AI application makes a prediction, we as consumers, buyers, sellers, we use these predictions to make our decisions. But those decisions then become part of a feedback back to the AI algorithm. Right? So think of example of Netflix, for example. Netflix predicts what TV show or what movies you should watch. Once you watch that TV show, Netflix knows that you watched it, and Netflix thinks that, oh, this person watched this TV show, they must really like it. So in a way, there is a reinforcing feedback loop here. Whatever the AI predicts, it influences the decisions that you make, and that becomes part of training feedback for the AI in the next period. And that can become an issue. That can become a self-reinforcing sort of hypothesis. That whatever I say, you do, and so I believe what I say is always true. So the sort of takeaway from this is if the marketplace or a vendor does those very AI-based automated pricing, unfortunately, it also means that it keeps training on its own prices, right? So whatever I'm saying about the value of the home, that is, if the sale price ends up being close to that value, that becomes how I don't have anything new to kind of train my model on. So you can get really beautiful accuracy metrics. And some people, I think, are asking on the side how accurate these things are. Of course, they're going to be accurate because whatever it's predicting is what ends up happening. But it's unclear if accuracy metrics can really be very good while the model actually drifts away from what things are actually truly worth. So that's something that we try to highlight, how these things can diverge in real markets. So the takeaway is that we may not want to judge an algorithm only by how well it predicts its own feature prices, but look at margins, returns, complaints, external benchmarks that are outside of the algorithm to see if those estimates are doing well or not. The second study looks at the platform incentives. So we realize that the platform often earn from ads, fees, completed transactions. They don't earn from the most accurate model. So this is also true if you look at ChatGPT, if you look at Google, if you look at Amazon, any of these big platforms. They don't necessarily earn revenue if they provide you the best AI model or the most accurate prediction, most accurate search ranking. But they earn more revenue if you buy more. Right? So the revenue maximizing pricing model always pushes more deals rather than the most accurate price. So that's something that we try to highlight in this study. And so the sort of takeaway is when you adopt an AI tool, it's important to realize that the objective is not profit. Objective is not your necessarily the most accurate information, but it's the profit for the platform or the company that's providing the tool. So you can't assume there's the most accurate thing. So that's something that we have to be careful about. We show that because of this reason, in a lot of these AI-based price estimates, often the prices that we will see will tend to have very excessive fluctuations or volatility over time. And that can induce more buying and selling activity in the market, then should happen. This helps the platform and the real estate agents because they earn money every time you pay commission to an agent. But that may not be the best thing for the buyer or the seller. Third, I think a related point is on AI trust. Whenever there is concern about the design of an AI system, it is natural that consumers are worried and may not trust or may not adopt that AI system. So you can have the most beautiful, most accurate AI prediction out there, but if people don't trust it, they don't adopt that AI, so it has no advantage at all. So the way we study this is we know that Zillow had two AI products out there. One was Zillow's estimate that I spoke about, that's on the left. They also had another AI-based product, which is called Zillow's iBuyer. I won't go into details of iBuyer and what it does, but what is interesting is 3 years back, that business and that product failed. There's a lot of the popular media around just assume that this is an issue with the AI that Zillow is using. And so we look at how, if as a business, as a company, you're offering multiple AI products, if one of them fails because we didn't design it right or because of some external reasons, consumers will have spillover. So they will not just imagine that only one product or one AI has failed. They may lose trust across the board. A very, I think, big example of this a couple of years back was when, in response to OpenAI and ChatGPT, Google's Gemini released its own AI based large language model. In the very early days, it did a very poor job. It was giving answers that were very bad. And that could have impacted Google's cloud computing business as well, because it's also very AI based. So companies have to be careful when they offer multiple AI products that consumers will, if one of them has an issue, consumers may lose trust across the board. So as we build more and more AI products, there's more systemic risk across the board to the failure of any individual one of these products. So I think this is a good time to summarize what we have learned from this very narrow case study about price estimates in the housing market. Let me just summarize some of the big takeaways. First of all, I think I do want to conclude that algorithmic price estimates are still not as common as some of the other AI applications like search, recommendations, chatbots, and so on. But I think they're increasingly prominent. And I think this is, by and large, there's a lot of value add by developing such algorithms because it helps consumers, buyers, sellers. If you are a business, and you don't have to be it need not just be in the housing market. If you're buying and selling used goods or cars or art or any number of these complicated bespoke things, I think AI-based price estimates are going to be more and more important as we go into the future. And they are important and useful because they are able to summarize a lot of noisy, large amount of market histories. But we should be careful about the pitfalls of using AI in these settings. One is that accuracy can be misleading because there's always a feedback loop. Whatever I say comes true. So it's very hard to say how accurate I was about the future. There's the issue of incentives. The person or the company who's developing controls black box, the design. So they could choose to do algorithmic setting, which is not the most accurate, but in fact, that creates more volatility in the market or more trading or more transactions in the market. That could help them, but may not be the best for the consumer. And then finally, the question of trust, I think, is extremely important. Trust and adoption can be gained or lost whenever there are major successes or failures. And that really changes how people use these AI products. So this becomes a source of risk for any business that is deploying AI. So this is not limited to price estimates. So as a business, if I'm deploying a chatbot and there's a public sort of a PR issue because my chatbot gave a wrong answer, that can really spill over into other things that I do. So people are not necessarily going to say that, oh, well, that's just an issue with your chatbot, but they might create a negative perception of the business or other products that you offer as well. So there is a lot of, because fundamentally AI-based solutions are never deterministic, like you can never set an exact rule of how they are supposed to behave. There's always randomness, some stochasticity involved. It means that you can never fully control what output goes out there. And so there are extreme cases in which that might create negative perception, and that can reduce trust, not just in that narrow product, but across the board for a business. So let me stop there. I know there have been a few questions that have come in parallel, but I'll let maybe Isabella moderate some of that.
Yes, of course. Okay, Nikhil, first, thank you so much for the presentation. It's extremely interesting, like to understand why, like sometimes we prioritize using these AI tools, like to enhance some processes inside our companies, but then we also have to take into account how it affects trust from our customers. So thank you so much. We have several questions. Of course, we have like more general questions that I would like to ask you. And considering that most of our audience is from Latin America, they were wondering how well do you think this model, specifically like the price, like the AI price model, would perform in developing economies like those in Latin America? Do you see it working effectively in this context?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is no reason why the same idea doesn't work across the board. And of course, I think I have studied this one platform in the US, but there are other people, I think colleagues of mine who study in other countries as well. A lot of other countries have similar platform. I think the model works across the board. I think one challenge that comes in is for every country, there's a different regulation on whether they release the sales data or not. So some countries, whenever a home sells, by regulation, that is supposed to be reported to the government and supposed to be released what price something sold at. So that can change country to country. So if that data is not available, I think that can diminish how accurate an estimate you can get.
Okay, great. Perfect. We have another question, more like from that technical standpoint. Do you think there is like a reliable way for users or teams to distinguish when they are interacting with an AI model versus like a traditional rule-based system? Like, are companies legally bound to disclose the use of those AI bots, or are there cases where it's like nearly impossible to tell?
I think for an outsider to tell, I don't imagine there is a foolproof way. So if the company is not regulated or does not want to reveal the underlying model, I don't think as an outsider there is a very good way to tell. Now, whether regulators force company to tell this or not, I think does depend on a case-by-case basis. There are some research where we have shown that in some industries, in fact, consumers may be better off if regulators don't force companies to reveal. This can especially happen. So think of examples like insurance. Insurance rates are often set by predicting your risk as a driver, for example. It's based on demographic factors, where you live, does the area that you live in, is that have large number of accidents and so on. So this is a very standard example where there's always a debate, should insurance companies be forced to reveal what model they have? Like, is it a simple rule or is it something more complicated? What does it take into account? There is a argument we made that by making the model public, it allows a consumer to know how they can reduce their rates, right? If the model says, hey, neighborhood A versus neighborhood B, there are different rates. Okay, maybe I'll rent my apartment in a different neighborhood because I like pay a little less in my insurance. But there's also an argument against why that shouldn't happen, because if as a company I am forced to reveal my secret sauce, like in case of Zillow as well, that's true, then other companies can replicate that. So I will have less incentive to really invest a lot in building sophisticated algorithms. So
Yeah.
from the point of view of does it stop innovation, I think there is an argument to be made that at least to some extent they can't be forced to fully reveal what model they have behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And like kind of like along the same lines, you mentioned earlier about like customers or consumers like losing trust in like those AI price goods. You mentioned like the example of Zillow. And does that apply also to like one-of-a-kind products, like such as art? You mentioned earlier that it was also they also use those like AI prices for art and stuff. Does that apply also like to those specialized used systems where buyers are like more accustomed to like human judgment in pricing?
Yeah, I think in all of these markets right now, a lot of us are used to human judgment, right?
Hmm,
And I
totally.
think that's changing. We don't ask humans about what movies to watch anymore. I think we just rely on whatever the platform recommends. Fashion choices, people totally. I hardly know anyone who like relies on a salesperson in a store. They're like, no, I know my recommendations. I know the algorithm. So I think things are changing. I think in housing, in used car, in art, I think that's also going to change slowly. And I think trust, therefore, is a difficult thing. It's not that uh, if I tell you that I have the most accurate model, that you're going to start trusting it immediately. It's a behavioral thing. It's going to take people some time to get used to it. Once they see examples of it working well, I think that adoption is going to grow more slowly than maybe what we have seen in other places.
Yeah. And about that, we also have like that other side of companies asking if they themselves, like their company, would like to use and implement one of these like off-the-shelf AI solutions, like the ones you talked about. Like, what do you think is like the level of expertise or like internal operational effort that is required to integrate those tools into like their existing website or their inventory management or their databases?
So I think developing a product like this requires some AI modeling skills and some data skills. I think the AI modeling skills you don't need that much of, because those models that are built already that are available to just use off the shelf, you don't need to know what's going on internally as much. The data skills, yes, because the data is specifically your domain. Like it's your inventory, your sales. How have you recorded it in the past? You maybe need to record it a little bit better going forward. So managing your own data and the expertise about your own data, I think that is where you would have to invest. The AI skills, I think, are a lot easier to just take off the shelf.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. Thank you so much, Nikhil. Those were the questions for now. I don't know if you want to say anything else before we close.
No, I think this was great, and I hope this was useful to get a sense of not just AI applications and this case study, but also more broadly how at our university, how we are critically analyzing some AI applications out there and what this could mean for communities, society, consumers more broadly.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. We
Thanks a
hope
lot.
to have CMU again in one of our training cycles. The users loved it. We have great comments in the chats, the emojis of the claps and the hearts. Thank you so much for joining us.